Sugar Hill, once home to LA's black elite, before and after construction of the Santa Monica Freeway. Previously the wealthiest black neighborhood in Los Angeles, construction of the 10 cut Sugar Hill in half in the 1960s. Despite residents' protests, the highway took hundreds of homes with it. Located to the west of downtown, on the border between Central and South Los Angeles, the area that became known as Sugar Hill is in the larger neighborhood of West Adams. West Adams is one of the oldest neighborhoods in the city of Los Angeles, with most of its buildings erected between 1880 and 1945. Prior to construction of the freeway, West Adams had been connected to downtown LA via the Los Angeles Railway streetcar system, an electric tram network operating on-street. Additionally, Pacific Electric Interurbans provided service across the region at large in a mix of private rights-of-way and street running. Sugar Hill was originally known as West Adams Heights. Prior to the 1940s, black people were technically barred from living in the area due to the presence of restrictive covenants. A restrictive covenant was a clause written into the deed of a home which permitted it to be sold to, quote, members of the Caucasian race only. Despite these covenants, beginning in the 1910s as upper-class whites began leaving West Adams for new developments on the west side and in Beverly Hills, a rising black upper class moved in defiance of the covenants. Most prominent among these new residents were actors and performers, including Hattie McDaniel, the first black woman to win an Oscar, actress and community activist Louise Beavers, and singer, actress, and Broadway star Ethel Waters. McDaniel's house in particular became the social center of Sugar Hill. Her biographer writes, "The best of black show business performed within the walls of 2203 South Harvard. Duke Ellington, Cab Calloway, Count Basie, and more." At this time, West Adams was popularly rechristened Sugar Hill in honor of the legendary neighborhood in Harlem. The larger West Adams area became a center of black wealth. In response to this ascendant black elite, in 1945, white residents sued to enforce the restrictive covenants and evict black families from Sugar Hill. Black residents fought back. McDaniel took a leading role in this fight, teaming with NAACP attorney Lauren Miller to organize the neighborhood's legal defense. In opening arguments, the attorneys for the white plaintiffs insisted that the black West Adams residents were in violation of the law, that restrictive covenants were protected under the Constitution, and that the black property owners must be required to surrender their homes immediately. Lauren Miller countered with what at the time was a shocking argument. He immediately moved to bar any testimony by or on behalf of the plaintiffs, arguing that restrictive covenants violated both the 14th Amendment of the United States Constitution, which mandated equal protection under the law, and the California State Constitution. In a landmark case, the court sided with McDaniel, Miller, and black residents, finding that the covenants did, in fact, violate the 14th Amendment. The victory wouldn't last. 15 years after residents won the right to remain in their homes, the California Highway Commission seized much of the neighborhood through eminent domain and demolished it for construction of the Santa Monica Freeway, I-10. Eric Avila, a historian and Chicano studies professor at UCLA, writes in the LA Times, "Black neighborhoods were considered to be blight. They were considered to be slums. The dominant perspective of the time was to eradicate blight, to get rid of the slums. The neighborhoods were simply wiped out, without any efforts to remediate the damage that was done." In the case of Sugar Hill, the word slum was used loosely. Across Southern California, freeways that paved over black and Latino neighborhoods were completed, such as the 5, 10, and 110, seen here. On the other hand, those proposed to cross whiter, more affluent areas were stopped. Highway builders often defended taking property in black neighborhoods by arguing that the land was cheapest there, a fact that relied on racist real estate practices and government-backed redlining policies that discouraged investment in black areas. In addition to the direct displacement of the communities in their paths, the freeways also facilitated neighborhood segregation. Created as walls to contain LA's growing black and Hispanic population, from moving into the more desirable areas on the growing west side. The 10 cut Sugar Hill in half, taking many of the neighborhood's homes and mansions with it, and creating a wall across the community. What had once been a short walk between Hattie McDaniel's house and Ethel Waters was now over a mile. There's absolutely no question that it destroyed the neighborhood, says Cal State Northridge professor Josh Sides. Berkeley Square, one of the most wealthy sections of Sugar Hill, was entirely leveled.
Where's Berkeley Square now? Well, right here. Or at least it was. Now, of course, you're looking at the middle of the Santa Monica Freeway.
This 10 freeway, which is, of course, a major artery for Los Angeles now, would bisect and divide and essentially destroy what was, at the time, the most prosperous African-American community in Los Angeles, one of the most prosperous on the West Coast.
Dr. Ruth J. Temple was among those displaced by the freeway. Dr. Temple lived at 5 Berkeley Square and was among the first black women doctors in California. She was a leader in providing free and affordable health care to underserved communities in Los Angeles, establishing the Temple Health Institute in East Los Angeles. Dr. Perry Beal lived with his family at 7 Berkeley Square. Dr. Beal was one of the first black doctors in Houston, Texas. He moved to LA in mid-1952, where he continued to practice. Reverend Pearl Wood lived at 19 Berkeley Square. 19 Berkeley was a hotspot for events in the neighborhood, regularly hosting some of Sugar Hill's largest gatherings. These are only some of the hundreds in Sugar Hill displaced by construction of the 10. In all, the highway would displace tens of thousands across the region. Shortly after construction of the freeway, the LA Sentinel wrote, "The road could have been built without cutting through Sugar Hill. However, in order to miss Sugar Hill, it was said that the route would have to cut through Fraternity and Sorority Row around USC. Fraternity Row still stands, and Sugar Hill does not, so you know who won out."